Hey everyone, welcome back to the show. I'm your host, Dr. Coppus, and today I'm joined by my guest, Erich. Thank you for joining me today.
Thank you, Dr. Coppus. Great to be here.
Of course. So Erich, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and why you're on today?
Sure. So 3 years ago, I suffered a series of concussions. It wasn't just one concussion. It was 3 head traumas in the matter of 4 months. And I was by the third incident, I was having terrible symptoms and had visited 3 or 4 neurologists. And basically the diagnosis was that I was, had a pretty serious concussion, and the recommendation was that I sit in a dark room for 2 weeks and hope it goes away. Mm-hmm. And if it doesn't go away, then they would consider other options, and other options being potentially either they explained it that if it didn't go away in 2 weeks, then it was probably more serious than originally thought, and there would be the result of that would be either kind of very, very ramped up behavior or very depressed behavior. And then at that point, if we got to that point, they would use medication to try to either manage that or alleviate it. And so I wasn't very pleased with that, and haven't been a big proponent of medication. It didn't really feel like the diagnosis was very scientific. I mean, they looked at me for about less than 5 minutes and just asked 2 or 3 questions, and that was really it. Mm-hmm. So I was really struggling with my symptoms. After the third one, I was in really, really bad place and could not seem to find any help. Yeah. And my son happens to play hockey, and I asked his hockey coach if there was any recommendations based on, what he's seen in his career. And he actually put me in touch with the Neurologic Wellness Institute and said that they have had great success with that, and scheduled an appointment and came in. And almost immediately I could feel a very, very different approach, and just something that I felt really great about. I mean, we went through like a 2 or 3 hour evaluation, this very extensive questionnaire that I filled out, and then coming in and doing some tests in person based on memory recall and reaction time and balance and things like that. And I just felt at that point relieved, because of the fact that I knew that this was really, trying to get to the root of the problem and the issues that I was having. And it was extremely thorough. And so I consider myself a great success story for this whole thing. And I wanted to share my experiences with you guys and with anyone else that might benefit from it.
Yeah, we appreciate you coming on and sharing your story with us and the listeners. Unfortunately, your story is very common to a lot of other people who have suffered traumatic brain injuries or concussions, and then they really don't know where to go after that, and they really struggle finding the right steps to healing their brains. How long were you searching before you found NWI?
It was out of the 3 incidents over a 4-month period. I was searching for probably almost 3 months.
Yeah,
before I found NWI.
Mm-hmm. So you're reasonably lucky to find us in that short amount of time. Some people, takes years and they're suffering with the symptoms. So
That's what I did learn after I
yeah,
met you guys and started talking about my situation and how frustrating it was. I can imagine going, I don't think, Dr. Joe, I could have gone much longer. I was just in a really, really bad place and
yeah.
just really, really having trouble managing the physical issues of the concussion and the mental issues of
Mhm.
concussion as well. So,
And if you don't mind going into that a little further, what were some of the largest symptoms that were affecting your life?
sure, sure. Well, from a physical standpoint, incredible sensitivity to light and noise,
Hmm.
dizziness, constant dizziness, headaches, and just a very, very strange feeling of being detached from anything I was involved in, whether it
Hmm.
was a conversation or some kind of meeting, or um, it was very, even interacting with my kids, I just felt very detached.
Hmm.
And the mental aspect of it and the struggle that I had was really um, kind of wondering, am I ever going to be back to normal?
Hmm.
Am I ever going to? One of the other symptoms was a real dramatic loss of short-term memory as well. I would have a conversation and couldn't repeat the conversation 5 minutes later.
Hmm.
And I was really, really worried. And it's, you know, when you're in a room and you can't listen to music, you can't read, you can't watch TV, you can't have the lights on, you can't really do any physical activity. It was I'm considering myself relatively active, and it was just so difficult and so mentally challenging for me to
Hmm.
just stay motivated to even get out of bed. I mean, I felt a real sense of depression coming on,
Yeah.
and it was really, really, it was really, really scary for me.
Yeah, and that's unfortunately so common after these head injuries, and people get to pretty dark places, and I'm glad you're able to divert out of that eventually. But what can you talk us through a little bit after you met with Dr. George, I think, right?
Yes.
You went through the 3 hour initial evaluation. Can you talk about some of the treatment approaches that you saw, maybe some of the things that stood out to you or that you really enjoyed while you were working with Dr. George?
Sure. So after my initial diagnosis, after the evaluation and the diagnosis, I committed to a 2 week program coming every day.
Hmm.
And, you know, the way Dr. George explained it, it really made intuitive sense to me in that when there is some kind of um, dramatic event or dramatic um, disturbance to the brain, an injury like that, your your brain is sitting in this neural netting, and it dislodges part of that netting, which are your neural pathways. And so the most productive way to treat that is to allow your brain to not only rest and heal, but also to re-stimulate those neural pathways.
Hmm.
And so we, over the course of that 2 weeks, did everything from e-stimulation, which is electronic stimulation, um, to exercises that help me with my recall, exercises that help me with my reaction time, exercises that help me with balance. And it was pretty remarkable, Dr. Joe, in that it was probably 3 or 4 days that I was driving home, and I could really, like, when I started, I couldn't drive. My wife was driving me. And midway through the first week of treatment, I said to her, I really feel different. I really feel like there's this cloud is starting to lift that has been like stationed over my head and on my shoulders for months. And I really, really felt like I was starting to get cognitive ability back. And that kind of built on itself in that it just gave me confidence and it gave me hope. It gave me a really hopeful outlook. And I think that also boosted my mood and just helped kind of lift me physically and mentally out of this. And it just continued to progress. So the treatments were extensive and the sessions were, an hour and a half to 2 hours at a time.
Mm-hmm.
And very, very thorough. And everything was, well, the other thing that I liked about it was it was very data and results oriented in that, when I first came in for the evaluation, we had this baseline of where I was at that point. And I was in really bad shape. And then we would do these exercises and continue this routine of the same exercises
Mm-hmm.
throughout that 2-week period. And I could see the development and the progression of how I was doing in my reaction time and my memory and stuff. And it was pretty remarkable. I was really, really incredibly impressed and so happy that I was seeing those kind of results, because I was, I'm not going to say I had given up hope at that point, but I was really starting to doubt whether I was ever going to get back to normal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And we take pride in making sure that we do have those objective measurements throughout so that we can correlate our results with the results that you're feeling subjectively. So I'm glad that those correlated and improved so quickly for you.
And then the other thing I would add, Dr. Joe, is that it wasn't just about coming to the office and doing an hour and a half of exercise. It was about changing other things in my life as well. My diet went on immediately onto an anti-inflammatory diet, supplements that help boost brain function, and fish oils and things like that. And it was just really a very holistic kind of approach to attacking this, and it was just incredibly effective.
Mm-hmm.
So
yep, absolutely, absolutely. And these brain injuries are so multifaceted, and it really takes an approach like that in order to really nail them down and give you as the patient the best chance for recovery as we can. I know we talked a lot about symptoms, and something we strive for is reduction of symptoms, improvement of function. But what has that meant to you in your life? What are you now able to do that you weren't able to do before, that Dr. George helped you get to?
I am 98% back to normal.
Mm-hmm.
And that is a pretty remarkable journey based on where I was.
Yeah.
I have I still have slight sensitivity to noise and light. And it's usually when I'm in a situation where there's just a lot of peripheral activity that you don't really realize that your brain is absorbing and processing. And so like airports where there's a ton of people walking around and it's very bright, I can feel it a little bit. I feel a little bit of it's a little bit of a dizzy sensation. But otherwise, in terms of, my memory loss, in terms of my physical abilities to do pretty much anything, back to, exercising really hard, and back to work, and no issues with any kind of, interaction or conversation or cognitive reasoning. I just feel like I'm really, really to a point where I'm almost completely on the other side of this. So it's been very dramatic, and
Yeah.
just, but it wasn't overnight. It took a while, and I was,
Mhm.
after I finished the 2 weeks, then I went to 3 times a week for about 2 weeks,
Mhm.
and then I went to once a week for like a month,
Mhm.
and then it was just, doing some exercises at home that Dr. George gave me,
Mhm.
and sticking to just the principles of the program, and you know, the the treatment, which was continued with the diet, continued with, the exercises, and just very conscious about putting myself in situations where I could be, when I felt like I was starting to get overwhelmed, removing myself from that situation, so
Mhm.
I wasn't being overstimulated.
Yeah.
So it's been, it was a long road back, but I'm
Mhm.
so grateful for everything that you guys have done for me, and where I am now.
Yeah. Yeah. We're happy to be in a position to help folks like you, so struggling with this. So, what was your, I guess, take on the clinic itself? I know you probably worked with Dr. George as well as, some of our staff in the clinic. How was your interaction with everybody?
I really like the people. I became very fond and very close to some of the people there, and they were great. They were just very attentive, very understanding of, I wasn't in a great mental state being there, and they were just really just walked me through everything with a tremendous amount of care and compassion, and um, as I said, extremely attentive, and I just felt really relaxed there. There's something psychological about, like, knowing that you're in a situation, like when you get sick and you're not sure what it is, and then you finally find out what it is. There's something about that that makes you feel better
Mhm.
initially, almost immediately, just psychologically. And I just had that feeling being in the office. I was very comfortable and very well taken care of,
Mhm.
and just making progress, continuous progress, and it was great.
Yeah, that's great. If you were to uh, give a message of hope for those who are struggling with what you were struggling with, or if you could, give yourself advice back when you were in the thick of it, what would that be?
Don't give up hope. I think that, you know, I came to understand that I was one of the fortunate ones, and that I did find you guys after a few months as opposed to a few years.
Mhm.
And I I know what that feeling was like, and being in the darkest depths of, despair, wondering if you're ever going to come out of this, and whether you're ever going to be well again and be able to do the things that you did again. And I can tell you that um, I I was there, and I was having those thoughts, and I am looking now back in the rearview mirror at all of this, and so happy and so grateful for what you guys have been able to do for me. And so I would say the biggest message is please don't give up hope. And if you can commit to, that treatment program, and it was miraculous for me. It really was miraculous for me.
That's great. Well, I'm happy that your results have been the way they have, and you're getting back to normalcy, and you're almost there. Probably still just doing some few exercises at home and sticking to the diet, and you get there before long. But
I'm extremely happy too, Dr. Joe.
yeah. Well, thank you for being on today, Erich. if you have any final words for our audience that maybe we didn't cover earlier in this show, this would be great to share those thoughts.
I would just say, I tried a lot of different avenues to
Mm-hmm.
address this, and um, I came to understand that neurologists are pretty good at diagnosing concussions, but they're not good at treating
Yeah.
concussions. And this, I was a little bit skeptical at first with the chironeurology, which I didn't even know existed.
Mm-hmm.
But I was at such a desperate point, and at that point would try anything. And I am so grateful that I did, because, as I said, the results were pretty instantaneous. They weren't, it's not after 2 weeks, my life was back, completely back. But I had not felt progress and results like that over the previous, 3 months, 3.5 months. And that feeling was amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And so, um, I would just say that I am a huge fan of what you guys do. And I'm also, I think, a great case study in the success that you can have.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, thank you for being on and sharing your story. I know that just you sharing your experience, so many people are going to be able to relate to that and hopefully feel the hope that you're providing them today. So thank you again.
I hope so, Dr. Joe. It's my pleasure being with you.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, enjoy the rest of your day. I think
Okay,
it's starting to warm up here in Chicago. So
finally.
yeah, right. So
Thank
this has been
you.
your host from the Neuro Wellness Podcast. Be well.